Hello. This here that I'm showing is something of a puff piece, but I thought it might be worthwhile discussing the difference between what happened with the Queen Consort, Camilla, and Meghan Markle, because it's an interesting contrast. You see, Meghan Markle insists that the British press didn't like her, that she did imply that they were racist, that the royal family was racist, that nobody liked her, that she was pushed to the edge of mental breakdown, that she was a poor little rich girl in a gilded cage or whatever. And I just want to remind everyone the difference between how she was treated and Camilla. Now, there's absolutely no doubt that Camilla did not act honourably. She was in an adulterous relationship with a married man who happened to be the heir to the throne. It was, of course, extremely hurtful to the Prince of Wales's then wife. The fact that the Prince of Wales's wife was then conned by a BBC reporter did not help, and that's something that Camilla is not responsible for. But also the fact is that Camilla should not have been in that relationship. However, she was. And the prince got divorced, and later on he married her, years later. And there was a serious attempt to spin her for the British public. And I don't say there's anything wrong with that. He wanted to marry this woman, and he had to make sure that the people were going to go for it. Now, as a matter of fact, despite the sordid history, Camilla is now quite a popular figure. She's been more or less forgiven. The fact is she's called not the Queen, but the Queen Consort. The Queen Consort to let us know who she is, and the Queen Consort to let us know what she is. Oh, there goes the knighthood. Look, she's definitely got a stained reputation. But she is rehabilitating herself in the following way. She is following through on the standards of service that we expect from members of the royal family. And quite frankly, the King's, the Prince of Wales's wife, Diana, was in many ways not fulfilling that role. She was, an exploding star, as it were. She did a lot of good. She did quite a bit of harm as well, but that's for another video, I suppose. I mentioned the exploding, meteorite, because there's been one overhead the night before I'm making this video. So anyway, let's get back to Queen Camilla. She was... To say she was unpopular is really an understatement. After Diana had died, and before Camilla was able to be given any sort of protection, because she was not officially part of the royal family in any way, she had things thrown at her in the streets. She had people attacking her in supermarkets. I remember reading about one incident where the police had to be called in to get her away from a crowd of irate women in the supermarket who were making much of their own moral stance, no doubt. And she's had some awful things thrown at her, and she's even had people like me, as in this video, reminding everybody that her morals, at least earlier on, were not strictly what we would call conventional. So she has had a lot of brickbats and insults and physical assaults. And I'm quite sure that didn't do much for her mental state And yet she carried on, she turned up at royal events, she kept that smile going. And it's that smile that's done it. I don't know what's going on inside her head. I don't know how many times she cries into her pillow at night about the way she's been treated or was treated. Or I'm quite sure she's going to get some stuff now. But it says here in the Express, Camilla couldn't throw wobblies post-marriage, and she adopted that smile thing. Wherever she goes, there's this huge grin and gratitude to the British public for, well, basically not throwing things at her, I think. The idea of the walk of shame, which Jeremy Clarkson came up with, was she actually was put through that. I mean, she damn near did have her clothes ripped off her back at one point, and she certainly had things thrown at her. And she certainly had people shouting, shame, shame. You know, I'd take more notice of those people if I thought that they themselves would not have acted in similar ways in other circumstances. And it says here that after they got married in a civil ceremony, they burst into tears after the marriage. Royal author claims the couple cried on their wedding day in 2005. Yep, with the future Queen consort regarded by many Brits back then as a hideous woman who had things thrown at her in the street. So you could say that this woman has endured a lot of insult and violence and hatred. Yes, hatred. And there are still people who hate her, although as with me, my attitude to her has certainly softened given the way she has atoned for her previous behaviour. And it's obvious that the king is happy with her, and who is not at least tolerant of somebody who is giving happiness. And I am interrupting myself to remind you that I'm Granniopteryx on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Mind. All the links are in the description. Please like this video, click that like button. Please share it and please subscribe. Remember, if you're on YouTube, you have to check your subscription is still active, and liking this video really does help their algorithm. You can also help me financially, buy me a coffee, or one of the other links. All the links are in the description. Right, back to Queen Camilla. Somebody who is giving happiness and who is doing good works. I'm put in mind of Profumo, the minister who got caught up in a prostitute scandal in the 1960s. A chap called Profumo was in the Macmillan government. That's right, and he he had to resign. He was the Minister for War, or as one famous satirist put it, the Minister for Whore. And he ended up working for a charity, and ended up, shaking hands with the Queen sometime later on because of the work he did for charity. Although he didn't bust up any marriages. Right, I cannot forget that Camilla has done that, and I don't think anyone should, although it's true that Diana was a fragile personality, and possibly with Camilla's toughness might have got through that whole situation. Who knows? Anyway, yeah, that's it. I just wanted to remind you of the difference between Camilla, the tough rural grandee who just got on with things, just worked her way through some really horrible prejudice. And nobody could say that was racist, but some actual violence and awful write-ups in the paper, as against Markle, who told Oprah Winfrey that the royal family were racist, and then her husband has recently said, no, it was the press who got that all wrong. And yeah, we have it actually there. Anyway, yeah, that's it. I wanted to remind you about the difference between Camilla, who had real hatred thrown at her, and Markle, who had nothing but love and affection thrown at her when she came into the royal family, and threw that up in our country's face. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or granbow with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.